behind, but have they left it too late? Have they left it too late and run out of room? Nini from Sisso is the rider on the front. He's going to go under the banner in one. And it is Stevie off the front here, but the pace coming down from Seb to Labuto's one of the climbers in the mix, and guess who he's leading out? He's got to be leading out his GC rider, and he is, because Sousa is in the mix. Sousa, I think, is going to be the first GC rider over the line in the B category to go underneath the banner, and it is indeed Sousa. Hello and welcome to the Super 6, brought to you by Octaine Racing, the union between Octaine and Flamme Rouge Racing. Alongside me, Emma Martin, is indeed Nathan Krake. We are going to be bringing you all of the action from both the Alpha and the Gamma races today, think A and C, from Europe. If we can, we're also going to see if we can't get the finishes of the B and D race in as well. Well, let's see who we can bring over the line today. Nathan, it is indeed a scratch race today, one with a wild card segment as well. But tactics and strategies are going to be important, aren't they?
Absolutely. We raced this about 8 hours ago, and what we found was that wildcard segment that is about 9Ks into this race is really going to be important for a lot of the teams, especially a lot of the teams that have only a few points separating them on the league ladders. And so I expect that we're going to see a lot of fire in that part of the race. But from a tactics point of view, I would suggest that a few of the teams should look to present and have their a couple of their riders positioned at the very front of the group to look for those breakaways and to make sure that their communication is on point for these races.
Well, it is indeed the 6th of February. I had to think about that then. And we are with you tonight for the scratch race. We are also with you next Friday for the final race of the round. So 5 races for the round 3. And that is a points race. We'll talk more about that later. But I can't believe this started back on October the 10th, 2025. Yes, that was last year, Nathan.
It's been an incredible series. The races have been challenging. They've been difficult. They've been brutal in some cases, if I'm honest. But the series has been fantastic. It's been well populated with lots of different riders from all around the world, and it really has been a joy to be racing in.
Yeah, well, you talk about riders from all around the world. Those leagues, 57 teams have taken to the start line for the Super 6 right the way across those leagues. And they will culminate in March, on March the 14th for the final. And yes, Nathan and I, well, I was going to say Nathan and I will both be there in the commentary box bringing it, Nathan, but you could well be in the final on your bike.
That's exactly right. We were discussing this earlier on, and but the chances are that we could be actually in that race, in that final, battling it out. And just so people who are watching there are some real world prizes on offer for the teams that do make it to the finals and win. So we are actually fighting for more than just some bragging rights here. There's definitely some kit, I think, that's available. But no, I'll be on the bike, hopefully, fingers crossed, if it all goes well in our race, which was a few hours ago, and the next one, which is coming up on the Muckle Yin.
Yes. Well, with 2 more rounds to go before playoffs and those finals on March the 14th, the teams are going to be battling it out for the last batch of points to go through. And I tell you, the teams, they are so close. Some of them literally tied on points in sort of 4th, 5th, 6th place, and sometimes just 1 point separating the top 2 teams in the league. So it has really been a battle out there right the way through from October till now. And it's going to be right the way to the wire to the 14th of March. Any specific last minute tips you're going to give to the riders down on the start line for the scratch race today, Nathan?
Well, look, I think the important part here is that the teams that are battling out for those points that are going to separate them into the finals, it's really going to be about the start of this race. Now, as I mentioned, the wild card segment, and for those that are maybe new to Super 6 racing, it's an important aspect of the racing format and of the tactics and of the strategy. You're going to see teams that are going to be looking to target that specifically and go and try a breakaway, go out early at the very start of the race. And so having that communication open, making sure that they've got one of their riders at the very least in the front, in the pointy end of the group, to communicate back what's going on and what some of the other teams might be doing is going to be critical if you're going to set yourself up for those points.
Well, Nathan, I think perhaps we should take a look at today's course.
Let's do it.
Well, we're on the Three Musketeers in France, and we mentioned it being a scratch race, 31 kilometres of racing, 195 metres of elevation, but it is indeed the wildcard challenge. Nathan has already experienced this, the pavé sprint reverse. That is indeed the segment that the wildcard, you can see the jester's hat on the map as it unfolds in front of you. The top 5 riders over the line are the ones who are going to be picking up points, and those teams, Nathan, they are going to be battling for that segment, aren't they, before the long run to the finish?
Well, that's right. And I would expect to see the pace really pick up in that kilometre or two, or even earlier as they approach that segment, because that's the only segment on this course, aside from the points that each team and each rider will receive, that teams will be battling out. It's definitely one to watch. And from that point on, aside from the aqueduct.com, it is reasonably flat. Now, when I say reasonably flat, there are some bumps, there are some rollers, and it's the Three Musketeers at the end, though, that really do come into play, especially with tired legs after 31 kilometres of racing.
Okay, well, I believe Category A are already up and rolling and out of the pen. And, well, Category B, C, D and E will be rolling shortly. But take a look at this. Category A are up and out. They're 500 metres into the course, 40 coming up for 50 seconds of racing. And look at the stretch on the group already. It's Christoph Flubus. Well, wow. From the Beast Mode Lions right on the front dialing this was at 4 watts per kilo. We've got Santo from the Beast Mode squad, also teammate on his wheel. Interesting team tactics, straight out of the pen and running up to pace very, very quickly.
Yeah, certainly that's what you'd kind of want to expect to see happen at the start of this race, given that the pavé sprint is only 9 kilometres from the start. And so teams are going to be positioning themselves on that front early. And this is what I said before, you'd want to make sure that you've got at least 1 or 2 of your teammates up in that front group to watch for these breakaways, make sure they're on top of it if it does happen, and then allow your other teammates to sort of sit back mid-pack, try and keep those legs as fresh as possible, because it's going to spice up quite quickly.
Now, one of the things that's quite interesting, Nathan, is the riders out there on the course don't know who each team's wildcard rider is.
No, that's correct. So that's the closely guarded secret of each team, and one of the strategies here, because you can, up until a minute or even closer to the start, you can change who the wild card rider is going to be. Now, you do need to specify this. You can't just say it out loud, but you can change that. And so even if a team has an inkling of who that's going to be, you can change that right up until the start of the race. And so we're not going to know who this is going to be, but the chances are, though, we will know soon enough as this group starts to stretch out, because those riders on the front, they'll be the ones targeting those FAL points.
Well, race control are aware, and so are the teams, and putting your teammates down the road to help you out, I'm assuming, is one of the big tactics. But the big tactic at the moment, I'm just looking at how far in. We're not even out of the lead-in section at the moment, and the Beast Mode Lions are on the front again. Christoph Flubus absolutely flying, but the rest of the riders now absolutely dialing this. This is a seriously early push, as though it's a full-out sprint.
Yeah, I wonder maybe whether he hasn't received all the notes on this race yet to realise it's only a finishing race. That seemed to be a bit heavy for the so quickly after the start.
It did indeed, and it would be interesting. Well, would have been interesting team tactics there in the Category A race to try and take the sprint out of some of the riders' legs by giving them a false run into the wrong section. Well, Category C are now also out of the pen. They're at the 30.2 kilometre marker now, and it's ticking down. 31 kilometres of racing, and look at this! It's like chalk and cheese, Nathan.
Yep. Yep, they've really bunched up nicely, haven't they? I think they all appreciate exactly what's going to happen. And if they can save some watts here early, that's only going to count towards their effort later on. Now, I was just thinking about that particular sprint we saw in the A's there. One of the tactics that we did play on was the fact that some of the riders not be entirely dialed into the fact that this is a scratch race. Now, we went on one of the sprints to use that as cover for our breakaway attempt. So I wonder if we're going to see that same kind of a tactic, that same sort of strategy happen in the A's and the C's in this race.
Well, and it's a great dummy tactic, isn't it? You know, if the sprint's in play, go through the sprint and utilise it as an attack. If the sprint's not in place,
yes.
Play on people's doubt.
Correct. That's exactly what we did. And so, yep.
Yeah, and you can see them all regrouping now in the Category A and that long stretch line. This has been such a fast start. And, well, with that wildcard coming very, very shortly, it's around 5 kilometres up the road from them at the moment. They've been racing for just shy of 5 minutes, but it's been fast and furious 5 minutes before they've settled down.
Yeah, it certainly has. And this is what we expected to see, given that wild card segment is so close to the start. Now, this is unusual because in other races, the wild card does tend to be further into the race. So it does give riders a chance to focus on some other objectives that they might have. But in this case, all eyes are on that wildcard sprint or that wildcard segment. And you can sort of see that happening now with the A's there. They all understand that. They're all keeping the pace high because they don't want to be hanging off the back when the front goes.
Well, talking about hanging off the back when the front goes, Christoph Flubos is hanging off the front of the A-pack yet again. This rider for the Beast Mode Lions has been, well, absolutely instrumental at the start of this race today, and he's still instrumental at the moment. The Watt squad are now coming up behind, and Sisu coming into close attention, so are Evo. But Flubos, what a move, what a push. Christoph Thiem and Christoph Flubos on your screen at the moment. You can see those two riders down there. And Flubos, I mean, he's gulping in the air at the moment down in that pain cave, and I am not surprised.
They are making it look so easy at the moment. I can't believe that the power they're putting out in the front here, you know, they're just sitting on around 400 watts coming into the start of this race, and it looks like they're out for a coffee ride, doesn't it?
Well, my coffee rides don't look like that at all, I can tell you. But the two riders now hanging off the front of the main pack. They've got 4 seconds. This is dangerous territory, though. Certainly.
And we can see one of the other riders there now trying to bridge across there, Norris. We've got Adrian as well, trying to make that jump across to the front because I think he's realised what they're trying to do here. And if they don't make that jump across now, they could miss out on those points. Now, the thing to remember about the FAL segment, the wildcard segment, is it's the first 5 riders across that line. Regardless of whether it's a wildcard rider or not, teams should be looking to flood those positions with their own riders as much as possible because it's not only about getting those wildcard points, it's about preventing the other teams from getting theirs.
Oh, let's just have a little look, shall we, at those Category A teams because Sisu, the Kevet team, are in the top spot position in the Alpha League in Europe. Beast Mode Lions in second place, 5 points behind. So you can see why Flubos may well be, for those Beast Mode Lions, so dynamic at the start of the race. Interestingly, Mansfield now trying to make a move and come across as well. That's a Cryogen squad. They're a little bit further down the league standings, but what a move. Category C, I feel the calm come over me. This really is about draft, save your energy, everybody looking at each other. This is going to be This is one of the things I really like, Nathan, about the fact that you're watching two different races on the same course under the same rules, but you are watching very clearly two different sets of tactics at play.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking that very thing. And you do see that different dynamic here in the seas. They're certainly approaching this in a more reserved fashion. And given the fact that we know what's to come, I expect that we might start to see some attempts there on the front after they go through that second sprint, the Dostian sprint. I think if they get to that point, there could be some fire on the front there to try and hopefully maybe separate some of the riders, but they may play it safe and wait until maybe 500 meters, 1,000 meters before they reach the Pave sprint. So it'll be great to watch. But certainly I think the three riders here recognise that they needed to separate themselves early from the rest of the group, and that's exactly what they've done.
They have indeed, and they've done it quite successfully, haven't they? They're 5 seconds up from the group, and the group looking at each other behind, though. Curtis from Sissu now starting to come to the fore, and I think this is going to be another attempt to cross the divide. But at the moment, the Gert from the Watts squad, Flubus from Beast Mode Lions, Cryogen's Mansfield, those three riders clear. And the question for me really is those three have really got to push on now and work together in this last 1.5 kilometres. Because any concerted effort from behind, including a really big kick on the sprint, could see that gap start to close.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the last thing I think these three riders on the front want. They don't want to have to try and compete for those 5 places with the riders that are coming behind them. Now, that gap is out to seconds, and quite possibly you're going to have Beast Mode Lions, you're going to have Watts, you're going to have the other teams there deliberately holding up the speed of that chasing group and doing very little on the front to prevent that gap from being closed.
And and that's one of the absolute joys, I think, of cycling esports and also road racing. You see those tactics come into play in those teams. You see the teams controlling the pace of the group behind, coming to the front, sitting up. It allows the riders down the road to really move. And at the moment, Flubus, Mansfield and Gert are the three riders moving here, and they're moving closer towards that Pave sprint. There's 700 metres to go, and now Mighty from the Ospreys, Whitey from Might, I'm going to call him Mighty Whitey from the Ospreys, absolutely dialing this now. This is a huge sprint coming out of Whitey from the Ospreys, trying to close the gap down, and this is the danger moment for the three riders who have gone clear. They might have 4 seconds, but at this type of power and this type of pace, this is where we see the gaps close, whether this is for 4th place. But Flubus now on the back of the group of 3. He's the rider done the work, and for me, well, he's going to need to watch now. He doesn't want to get caught out and not be rewarded for the effort. Well, there's 100 metres to go. The banner is coming. They're going to swing round the right-hand corner. Gert, Mansfield, Flubus, Whitey, all in there. Leon is coming from behind. So is Emo from the Vultures. The Vultures coming in thick and fast. Leon from as well here. The riders coming fast, but it's Gert from Flubus. Flubus now kicks. Gert has gone at 10 watts per kilo. What has Flubus got? Flubus is looking for the line. He's led this from the front of the race, and the banner is right around the corner. There it is. We sight it. It's Gert versus Flubus. Flubus versus Gert at the moment. Gert from the Watt squad is going to take the first. He is indeed. Christoph Flubus comes through for Beast Mode Lions in 2. That was some mighty moves.
That was a lot of power spent. And I think the important thing for our viewers to remember is, though, that only the riders who have been designated the wildcard holder will get those league points. So they can have other teams take up those spaces, take up those positions, but only the wildcard riders are actually going to get those points. So I wonder, and we don't know exactly who other wildcard riders are, but you'd have to think that those top 5 riders would definitely be there in that and trying to get those league points.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and you have to wait until the race is over, and you can head over to the Flamme Rouge Racing website and check out all the results. Now, whilst we leave the Category A pack scrabbling back to reform as a group, the Category C, well, they're 2k out from the Pave Sprint, which just tells you the different nature of the 2 races that we are watching today, and the much, much steadier start. And pretty much these riders have been rolling around 2.5 to 3.5 watts per kilo kilo. And a lot of those riders in the draft, far less than that. There's going to be a lot more fresh legs in this pack.
Absolutely. I'm kind of surprised, I'll be honest, that we're not seeing some early attempts here to try and separate some of the teams from this group. I mean, when you come into it, having a 3 or 4 or 5 second breakaway like we say can make all the difference in terms of being able to secure those points. And at the moment, what we're watching with the C's here with Gamma is that they are all sitting up sort of sideways, looking at each other. Here we go. We can see Maloney there now pushing off the front to try and force that gap and Coalition to see if they can open that up, separate themselves from the rest of the group. And this is where that communication and esports is so dynamic, because all these teams will be communicating with each other. They'll be communicating who's going up the front, who's sitting in, and then sort of adjusting their strategy accordingly.
Well, they're coming up to 1,000 metres to go until the banner, and the stretch now on the Cat C group. Spin Doctor coming up, so is Thomas and Taylor, so is Harrison, but it's still Maloney leading this out. Spin Doctor comes up and over the top. Maloney drops to third. Everyone needs to stay in close contention here because the pack may be long and the wild cards coming to the fore, but who knows who those wild cards are? Who knows who is going to kick first? Who knows who is going to run for the line? All they know is the line is coming. There's 700 metres, 600 metres to go. They're still wide across the road. No one has put in a concerted effort to try and go clear of the group yet. Coalition still on the front. So are the What Squad. But Gary from Coalition leading this out. Oh, this is going to be one massive run for the line. Oh, we are sitting. We are waiting. We are watching. Coalition, the Dinos, ART, they are all lining up. The wild cards are hidden. They're going to come out very, very shortly. They're going to swing around the right-hand corner at the end of the run. The Sunflowers, well, they make a pretty sideline here in France, but we're looking for the key action coming out of the pack. Spin Doctor still up there. So is Maloney. So is DeVos. So is Smith and Greenwood. Isaacs is there with Potter from the Evo squad. Underneath the archway they go. 2 more corners, and then that green banner. The big numbers start to come down because Gellings is absolutely dialing this. Greenwood's at 13 watts per kilo. The Dinos rider absolutely on the front here. Greenwood absolutely pushing the power down through those pedals. Isaacs is following from the riders, but DeVos is there as well. Now the rest of the riders come, but no one. I think Greenwood still takes that. DeVos came up and over the top, but I think that was Greenwood's. What a move.
That was incredible. Like that was sensational. Talking about leaving it to the last minute. Here we can see Greenwood from Dinos coming through and orange numbers across the board. So certainly we've had Dinos there representing quite a few spots there, BMTR as well. So What Squad there. It was really a fantastic sprint. And of course, we'll have to wait until the results there to see which rider was holding the wild card and which team got the valuable 2 league points.
Well, the Dinos rider Greenwood going through across the line, but we will wait and see for those results. We're going to drop back in with the A group, and you can see there's still stretched. The pace on this A category race today, the Alpha race, has been absolutely dominant. Christoph Flubers from Beast Mode Lions, who we saw leading the action, now neatly in the group and taking, well, some well-deserved recovery is what I say. But the pace on the front of this pack, it is still long and it is still stretched, and every single rider in this group must be wondering what on earth has happened today. A scratch race. Nathan, you normally assume with a scratch race that, yes, okay, there's going to be some team tactics in play, but there's going to be opportunity for drafting and, taking some recovery, playing out some strategies. No one's allowing anything to happen here in the teams. Well, I'm assuming, Nathan, like you and your team, these teams have been really talking about how they're going to play this out today.
Absolutely. And you're right, Emma. There'll be a few of the team riders, the teams in here, who would be wondering what is going on with the power and the speed in this race, and just simply not getting a chance to recover as you normally would in a scratch race, because we've all experienced that which races tend to be about 75% of the usual speed until the last sort of section of the race. In this one, it has been hot, it's been heavy, straight out of the gate. And of course, some of these riders, I think, aren't going to have the legs in terms of staying with this pace for the entire race. But certainly the communication is something that we kept up quite well throughout the entire race, constantly communicating what were the riders doing, what power were they doing, where were we positioned. And I think the teams that aren't doing that in each and every one of these races are losing out. I mean, they need to have that kind of communication happening in order to be competitive.
Well, the Watt squad on the front here. The gap now at 4 seconds. You can see, though, they're coming into the Ballon sprint reverse, but not on the sprint today. So none of the segments now in play today out on the course. It is just literally the line at the end at the 31-kilometre marker. The rest of the pack now starting to close down. Beast Mode back on the front of the pack, not wanting to let anybody go. They're lying second overall in the league, 5 points behind the Sisu team. They are going to want to be closing everything down, and they are really doing a great job of that today.
Yeah, they certainly want to try and bunch this group up, try and recover as much as they can. But the Watt squad is not letting them off the hook, are they? They're really starting to push that pace, and they've still got over 15 kilometres left in that race, and they are at every ounce of effort and every watt they've got to keep that pace high, make sure no one gets a free ride to the end.
Well, it's interesting, in the C category, the Gamma League, the Dinos at the top of the table. The Watt squad bunch lying 6 points back in second, but then it gets really, really interesting because Club Chocolate are 1 point back. They're tied on points with L'Equip. Then there's only 4 points back to ART. So second, third, fourth and fifth place, very close. And I can tell you, lining up behind fifth place, it's 1 point back to sixth, a further point back to seventh, and a further point back to eighth. There's a lot of points out there today, and a lot of teams who are going to be wanting to close down the gaps.
Yeah, that's right. And so you're going to have these teams now that are absolutely 100% focused on that finish line, because the more riders that they get across the line in the highest finishing places they can will count towards them winning the race, them positioning themselves well in the race to get those extra league points. And as you say, Emma, with the spread so close on some of those teams, they're going to be doing everything they can to make sure they secure as many points as possible. But it is going to be fantastic racing, and I'm really looking forward to how they approach this second half of this race.
Well, the second half of the race, and Christoph Lubus from Beast Mode Lions approaching it like he did the first half of the race, off of the front. Werner from the Vultures sat covering the pack behind. The Watt squad also to the fore of the group, and Sisu now coming through. In fact, I've just seen Curtis really start to move his way towards the front of the pack. The Sisu squad, the ones that are really going to be in danger if the Beast Mode Lions really start to motor and aim to pick up as many points as possible at that finish line. They're lying 1 and 2 in the league. The Watt squad not far behind, though. The Alpha Watt squad lying in third. Expect those riders to be really trying to pack at the finish line. But Flubus at the moment isn't packing with anybody. He is on a solo adventure here today in France.
I've got to say, it's an impressive effort there. And I'd like to think that there'd be a couple of his teammates that are talking with him and maybe coordinating how they might be able to bridge across without bringing too many of their competitors with them. But certainly doing that effort solo at the front with 14 Ks to go is a monster effort, and certainly something that I would like to see how he's going to go, how he's going to approach the remaining kilometres in this race, having put out so much already.
Well, it's a good question. And the other question is, can he time trial all the way to the finish with 13 kilometres still to go? He's slowly edging his way further and further away from the group. It was at 3 seconds, at 4 seconds. It's now sat at 5 seconds. And the What Squad have come off of the front, you know. They were on the front with the pace quite high. They've come off of the front. The Vultures now on the front of the pack. But again, Magnus starting to drop back down the Evo squad, and they're rolling round the front of the pack, Nathan, but no concerted effort at all from this group to bring back the Beast Mode Lions rider.
No, there's no attempt there at all to try and bridge that gap, get across to him. Now, we are hitting a slight incline up to the banner there. I don't know if that's going to put any more pain into Christoph's legs there, but certainly it doesn't look like it with that gap maintaining at about 4 seconds. The other riders there, I think at the moment, they're happy to sort of see, you know, what's going to happen and conserve whatever little energy and what's they've still got left after that Parway sprint for the end of the race. Now, as I said, this is a flat course, a reasonably flat course, but there still are some rollers that they're going to have to contend with, and that could be all the difference in terms of trying to bridge across and reeling him back in again.
Well, Category C still sat now back at their steadier pace. A little bit more action on the front, a little bit more rotation, a little bit of a higher pace rolling. Coalition on the front, but now Gary from Coalition sitting up slightly, allowing some of the riders behind to start to come through. Interesting differentials yet again between the two races. The pace now starting to pick up, though. They are heading towards the finish of the race. Just over 15 kilometres now to go. I imagine the thought process here amongst these teams in Category 6, thinking about how are we going to wind this up? When do we start to move? How do we start making this work for us?
Well, I was just looking at the course, and I know that in our race, the last sort of, I guess, 5 kilometres coming into the finish there was where a lot of the groups did separate. And so I expect that we're going to see some fireworks happen around there. But even as we come through some of the rollers that are just a bit further up the course, there's going to be some attempts there to separate the group, try and get a few of the riders on the front, pushing off the front there. And with some tired legs already in the back, I think that there's a real opportunity there to try and separate and create a gap. Now, I was speaking with a few of our teammates in our race, and they said the same thing. They said if there was a rider or two on the front that went now, a lot of the riders just would not be able to stay with them. And this is maybe what we're starting to see there with one of the riders now off the front. We've got JW there, already sort of maybe opening up a little bit of a gap, testing the waters, see who might go with him, or see if they're going to, and maybe they've decided to sit in.
Yeah, interesting move, isn't it? With the just over 14 kilometres to go, a bit of a push now coming in the C category race. We've got Flubus off the front in the A cat. We've got the C cat now starting to motor as well. This is a scratch race. Nathan, it is, this is now all about the finish line. Next week, we have a points race. The final league race is indeed a points race, and all 6 roles will be in play. That's why it's called the Super 6, because of the number of different roles that we have in the teams. Teams of 5, 6 roles. Should we take a look at those roles and just confirm what we're going to see next week? Nathan, do you want to talk us through those different roles on the squads?
So each team has 5 in each team. Each rider has a specific role. These are all allocated within the portal. You've got your general classification rider, you've got your 2 climbers, you've got your 2 sprinters. So there's your 5 actual riders. Now the wild card is allocated to one of those riders. Of course, that's a well-guarded secret within the team. But each other of the riders have their specific targets, their specific goals they need to achieve. Now, if you're a climber, you can only score points on the comms, on the climbing comms. If you're a sprinter, you can only score points on the sprints. So if I was to pass through one of the sprints in the fastest time possible, I wouldn't get anything for it. Now, the GC rider, his job is to finish as high as he can or high as they can against all the other GC riders. And so it's in the team's best interest to try and protect that GC as much as they can throughout the race and deliver them to the finish in as good a condition as possible so that they can maximize those finishing points. And of course, every rider gets finishing points depending on where they finish against all of the other riders in the race. And so that really does lend itself to some pretty unique strategies, some pretty unique tactics that we don't often see in other racing series.
Well, it does indeed, and the tactics are playing out already today, even though we're in a scratch race. So just for confirmation, next Friday we are here with the final league race. It's a points race, and that will be same time, same place next week. We are leading up to March the 14th, though, the finale that will be at 7 p.m. GMT on Saturday, March the 14th. Put the date in your diary because the Super 6 is going to be coming to a conclusion on that day. We started out on the 10th of October. We're finishing on the 14th of March, and it has been exciting racing for the teams all the way through. Well, the A category, just shy of 8 kilometres of racing. Christoph Flubus has now got company because Whitey from the Ospreys has closed him down. He is back on the wheel, or will be very, very shortly. One final push from the Ospreys rider. The Beast Mode Lions rider, Christoph Flubus, is about to be caught. We've got 2 riders clear now. There's 7 riders clear. Whitey has done a phenomenal job of closing the gap down twice now to Flubus's wheel. Curtis from Sisu, in fact, a number of the Sisu riders starting to come and paying attention now at the front of the race. They need to control this, Nathan, if they want to stay on top spot.
With that 8-second gap, that's a fair effort to try and cross at this point in the race. But we can see, and I think we're seeing that right now, some of the riders there on the front trying to push the pace, lift that pace up and bridge across to those front 2 riders because, as you say, there's only 7.5 kilometres left in this race, and that will go quite quickly, especially after they get through a couple of the early rollers just now. And then we've got those 3 musketeers, those 3 short, punchy climbs towards the end, and that's where everything can change, especially when tired legs are pushing hard over those 20-30 second efforts. It's really going to come down to which team can position themselves coming into the end of this in the best possible way.
Well, Mark Santo, Flubus's teammate on the Beast Mode Lions squad, has lit the touch paper because he has launched an attack because doesn't want the rest of the riders to close it down. So Santo pushing on and kicking hard, coming back to his teammates' wheel. He's bringing riders with him, but only those riders who could cover that gap and cover that move. Meany from Siso is there. Santo, Adrian in the mix as well. Flubus now towards the back of the group as the Cryogen rider. Wilson now comes over the top. Santo from the Beast Mode Lions quickly on to his wheel.
You'd have to be wondering what's going through Flubus's mind now, having put all that effort in there for a good 5 or 10 minutes after the Pave sprint, and now to see that group blow up around him again. Well, I'm sure he's taking some well-earned rest there in the middle of the pack, but it would be, I think, a frustrating feeling doing all that work, trying to make that breakaway stick, only to have the rest of the pack claw their way. You have to wonder now how they're going to approach the rest of this race.
Unless, of course, Nathan, that team tactic was to get him out for the wildcard effort and light the fire at the start of the race and then hold for as long as possible to wind the legs off of everybody whilst the rest of the team sat in the pack. But we will only know when we get towards the end of the race. Well, I can tell you one of the Beast Mode riders who we have not seen yet this race now picking up the mantle. It's Walter from the Beast Mode Lions squad here in Category A. Christoph Flubus, his teammate, now back in the pack. Mark Santo closed the gap down and brought the rest of the group back because Flubus wasn't doing the business out front anymore. Now Walter goes on the attack. That's 3 different riders from the Beast Mode Lions squad off the front of the group, each to their own turn.
Yeah, they're certainly trying to dominate this race, aren't they?
Well, it's absolutely brilliant, isn't it? They're lining second place overall in the league. They want that top spot and they are absolutely battling for it tonight with one more race to go. Well, the Category A race is absolutely alight with 5 kilometres to go. The Category C race has been much more, well, I was going to say circumspect.
I'm wondering how many of the riders here are hoping that this is going to be the case and try and be as fresh as they can as they approach that finish, because the finishing points, this race is all about that. And the more riders each team can get higher up as they finish, the more chance of getting those valuable league points and hopefully setting themselves up for race 5 and the finals. But you'd think that there might be a bit of a differential now between some of these riders coming in with 9.6 Ks left to try and open this up so they're not battling 30 other riders when they get to the finish. And we can see JW there still pushing that front, sitting at just a reasonable 300 watts, as you do, coming around the bend
as
here.
You do.
And hopefully, we might see that kick on a little bit further. But we also can see a few of the riders there just dangling off the back ever so delicately that one push here could see that elastic snap.
Well, you are right, JW, coming back into the fold, but just hanging on the front of Brugge is there, as well as a number of other riders. Burrows is in the mix, but the pace, riders sitting between 2.4 and 3.4 watts per kilo. This has been very much the case throughout the majority of this C race. The Gamma squads, and one of the things I'm debating, Nathan, is that the Gamma League, the C League, is much closer in terms of points between the teams than the Alpha League. And I'm wondering whether that is also contributing to the different nature of the racing that we're seeing today.
It definitely could be. You certainly would be expecting that a lot of these riders will be looking sideways at each other, seeing who is going to jump first, because we know that the riders that jump first could very well act as, lead out riders for the other teams to come over the top as they approach the finish here, and nobody wants that. So I expect that a few of the C-grade riders are going to be sitting in for as long as they possibly can before they have to go, and then push with everything they've got left to try and get across that line as high up as they possibly can. But looking at Curtis there in the A's, sitting at the front is 17 seconds behind Beast Mode there, out the very, very front. That's a massive gap.
It is, and what we've also got in this A category is a group of riders who are capable of doing this, and Walter is one of those riders. We've seen constant attacks in the A category, and the riders know that if they put the effort in and bank on their teammates behind them, that this is a possibility. And Walter and the Beast Mode Lions have done it yet again, and this time with just shy of 3 kilometres to go. This could be a winning move. I'm not sure this group could come back, because Walter is more than capable of staying out there. They've really got to do something and work together through this section here, Nathan, to close this gap down.
Certainly. I mean, that 17 seconds is going to be so difficult to try and bridge across to, but we are coming in to these 3 punchy little sections that could be the deciding factor in terms of whether Walter can make this stick all the way to the finish. And as you say, Emma, he is certainly capable of doing that. But the other riders, we're still looking at finishing points for all these riders, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. They're all very valuable positions. And so, whether some of those teams now are going to start executing their finishing strategies, well, I'm hoping that's the case because, it'd be great to see some more fireworks there towards the back of the pack. And we've got Minot as well coming through from Cryogen. We've got Curtis there as on his wheel. And then a bit further back, we've got the rest of the group there, Wilson, Meany as well. So we can see some of this speed now coming to the fore as they push over these short punches.
Well, it's right, isn't it? The teams are now starting to pack together. Cryogen, Sisu, Beast Mode Lions. I've seen the Vultures in there. I've seen the Ospreys in there. The riders really starting to pay close attention to what's going on at the front of the race. And yet again, it's Wilson from the Cryogen squad who is lighting this up with red numbers across the board. Magnus from Evo also behind. The rest of the riders looking to respond, but Walter from the Beast Mode Lions still off the front. He's now only 11 seconds clear because the gap is closing back to Wilson. We've now got Wilson from Cryogen behind Magnus of Evo, and then we've got a further gap back into the main group at the moment. This really is now starting to move and starting to motor towards the finish line. As that finish line gets closer and closer, we are 1,300, 1,200 metres out. One last punchy climb, one descent, and then the flat run to the finish. Simon Walter from the Beast Mode Lions squad, 6 seconds. He's hanging on, but he's only just hanging on. He's going to need to find another gear to take the win in this race today, because Wilson from Cryogen is motoring. He's found another gear as he swings around the corner behind. If Walter could turn his head, he'd see Wilson. It's not a sight he would want to see, but one that is there. I am paying very, very close attention to what these two riders are doing on the screen at the moment, because the gap is down to 4 seconds. And Wilson is the rider in the ascendancy at the moment. The pack behind, well, they are still rolling. Nobody else rolling off the front. I think we're going to see 1, 2 across the line, and then a big sprint for the rest of the group. Walter, 3 seconds now, the gap to Wilson. Has he done enough? Everybody's making their mind up at the moment, and he's got the run in towards the finish as they swing around the corner. They are well and truly in sight. What motivation must Wilson from the Cryogen be driving through those pedals at the moment? The second you can see the rider ahead, it just focuses you on their back wheel. The numbers light up from Wilson. He's trying to close this down. The Beast Mode Lion rider Walter is trying to close it down and trying to get to the finish line first. It's a 2-second gap at the moment. It may be enough as Walter continues to push. The Cryogen rider is coming fast from behind. Has he got his timing to perfection? Can Walter stay clear? I think the answer to that is going to be yes today. Walter goes over in 1, Wilson in 2, Adrian from the riders behind, Gert from the Watt squad, Sisu are coming fast. The Sisu riders packing it fast right over the line. Could well there have just taken 3rd and 5th. What a move from them.
Wow, what a finish. That was just electric. Those riders coming through in 5th and 6th spot were really putting some big numbers out. But that was a fantastic ride. Yeah, and an awesome finish. So for the A's there, that was just. Whew.
Yeah, so
just look at the
that.
replay
Wilson
there.
nearly
Walter,
ran out of road, but not quite.
Yeah. Wilson was another 50 metres, and I think Wilson may have had him, but I think Walter timed that perfectly. I think he got enough of a gap that he could just, keep the power consistent to the finish. But Wilson was doing everything I think that he had left in his bag of tricks to try and bridge that gap and get across to the banner before Walter, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, well, the A race. Riders off the front, fast and furious behind. This is the C race. They are 4.6 kilometres from the finish line, and we are going to stay with them until they are over. JW, yet again, the Canadian rider on the front of the pack here. Closely packed behind, though, Merrill, Spear, Burrows, Maloney, Harrison, Turner, all behind. Still one big pack. A little bit more stretched than sometimes, but now the riders winding this up and starting to think about some team tactics here. And it is going to be team tactics as well. Fast and furious on the road, because as of yet, those team tactics for the final here in Cat C, Nathan, have not come into play.
No, they're keeping it a bit of a secret, aren't they? But I would like to think there's a few riders there on the front there that are going to start positioning themselves as they come into these rollers towards the end of this race, and then maybe look to launch an attack on some of those punchy climbs, because they're the perfect spots to do this. They aren't long enough that you need to really sit in, and they aren't short enough that you can just simply roll over them. They're going to be taking a bit of the power and a bit of the effort that they've got left to get over those rollers in a position that's going to help them get across the line first. And so this is what we want to see now, and we're just approaching this as we come into a short little downhill section, a little false flat, and then they're going to start hitting these rollers there. And I expect this is where we're going to see the group fracture between those riders that have still got something in the legs and those riders that are just barely hanging on.
Yeah, and I'm just taking a little look at the league table at the moment, and I am expecting that we are going to see L'Equipe, ART, Coalition, BMTR, all trying to score points here. They're sat in what I'm calling, along with the Dinos, the hot zone in the Gamma League. 1 point separating each team as we go down, and 1 point absolutely nothing at this stage with 2 races to go. So they are still battling for those top 5 positions in the league. And the Dinos now, Gellings from the Dinos. Well, we said the Dinos may be one of the teams who could start to push. They have. Interesting move going into the rollers on the up and now into the descent. The pace on the descent, picking up that momentum, and the momentum really key here. It does help establish those gaps.
Yeah, we can see that tail starting to stretch out now. And these are the riders that are going to be finishing on the front across that line that we're looking at. And so we've got Maloney there, we've got Seegers, we've got Taylor. They're all the ones that are pushing the pace now. 372 watts, 356 watts. It really is going to come down to these last 2,000 meters, 2,500 meters, as they now really lift at that pace. It's going to be a great finish.
Yeah, it is indeed. And we are winding up for that finish. We are just shy of we're just around 2 kilometres away from that finish now. And we are on the penultimate climb here on the Three Musketeers course in France. A scratch race for 31 kilometres, 195 metres of climbing. No climbs or sprints in play today, but we did have that early wild card challenge on the pavé sprint. We're now looking for the top 5 riders over the line here. Well, we did in terms of that wild card, in terms of points. We're looking for who can make the top 5 riders over the line here. In fact, we can see which order any of these riders come over the line, because at the moment, the Dinos from the What Speed, from Club Chocolate, from L'Equipe, from ART, Coalition, BMTR, they are all battling here in the team competition on the Super 6. They're battling to make those finals on March the 14th, as well as, well, Nathan told me earlier on stage, the bragging rights for winning your league.
Well, it is about bragging rights, but there are some physical, real-world prizes on offer for the guys, for the teams that finish the finals too. So certainly there is a lot to play for in this racing series. And I'm kind of a little bit surprised here now. We're looking at 1,500 metres to go, that the group hasn't stretched out further and in actual fact has come back together. So with one final punch now, JW from Canada is still pushing that front though. He wants to see himself across the line first, and he's doing everything he can to get there.
Well, there's leading teammates out and there's going for a long run. And I think the pace from JW at the moment is a lead out. Thomas now coming onto the front from the Equip squad. The What squad also coming up. So are Evo. The Dinos are in the mix as well. Isaac from the Dinos. Isaac also pushing on. But the pace and the pack rolling so fast that the group is changing constantly at the front. Smith from Coalition is up there. Gryson is up there. Merrill is up there. Harold is up there. Simon is in the mix as well. Derby is there. So is Cooper. The riders continuing to push here, but the pace is fast, and you can see how fast, because the Canadian rider JW now right on the back of the group. Job done, tick. Move to the back of the group. Maloney from Coalition now right up the front. Kilmada is there. Thomas, Ben from The racing move is there too as well. Broadbent from the Dinos. The Dinos have got a lot to pay for today. They are going to be lining up for this sprint. There's 300 metres until the sprint starts. 500 metres till the line, and now the pack start to move. They start to roll. Clark on the front. Toplov is there as well. The riders pushing here. Taylor from the Dinos coming into the mix. Kilmare as well. Greenwood launches at 11 watts per kilo right from the back of the pack, making the most of the draft. Greenwood, what a move. Absolutely fantastic tactical sprinting here. Isaac is there, so is Gellings, but Greenwood is on the front. Isaacs comes over the top of Greenwood. What a move from the riders. Isaacs from Greenwood. Oh, what a move. That was classic tactical sprinting to come from about 3/4 of the way back in the pack.
Using that draft to come through, but 11.3 watts per kilo. There's some monster power coming out of that race. That sprint was just fantastic. And so many there too, all pushing, all wanting that win off the front there. And the way they were just coming through that pack, the speed there, 500, 700 watts, that was just, after a long race, 31 kilometers, that was just incredible. And Isaac's there just really head down across the line. Greenwood just behind as well. Wow, that was that was awesome.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it looks like there were 3 Dinos teammates in the top 6 riders there, so they packed absolutely brilliantly.
Yep, that was, as you say, Emma, that was textbook tactics in that sprint there for the last sort of 500 metres. As they come around that bend, it was game on.
Well, Category A, we saw very, very different riding and racing in the Alphas as we did in the C League, the Gammas. The 2 races were very different, but, well, neither sets of tactics disappointed. They gave us fast and furious racing, both at the wildcard section and over the line in that scratch race. We haven't watched the B race, but the results are in. So Simon Walter from that Beast Mode Lions squad, we watched him take the win from Wilson in the Category A race. You can see the rest of the riders, the top 10 over the line in the order they came through. In the B race, Gary Bimalba took the win from Aaron Dumptruck. The rest of the riders listed there, the C riders, we've just seen that race come to its culmination as well. What riding and racing, I love a points race because it's fast and it's furious and there's lots of action. But I also love a scratch race, Nathan. The watching, the waiting, the run for the line, the shall we go long, shall we sit in and sprint, it does keep you waiting.
The strategies on play in these races is just fantastic to watch, because you can try and pick it early and see if that's how they're going to approach it, but then you don't know what's exactly going to happen until those final stages of the race. And in the case of the A's, that was, well, they knew exactly where they were going to go, and they've got the ability to breakaways much more earlier than in, say, the C's do, whereas the C's are a little bit more reserved. They're trying to reserve and hold on to as many of those watts as they can because they know they're going to spend it at the end. But that strategy, watching it unfold as they come across the line, is just a joy.
Yeah, well, the C results confirmed there. So AJ Isaacs did indeed come over the top of Greenwood in that sprint, and Isaac coming through for 3rd place. You can see the rest of that pack in the order they came through in the top 10 on your screen.
And so if those that are watching, there are 5 categories or 5 leagues in each of these races. And so we do have A, B, C, and D, as well as E. So for those that maybe are interested in approaching and having a look at this, the next series, which is going to be coming up later in the year, there is a category and a position for all riders and for all levels. So certainly head across to the flammerougeracing.com website if you want to learn more about creating a team, getting your team members in the mix, and having a go.
Yeah, because the Super 6 will be back in October, won't it? 2026, when we start this all over again. But don't go anywhere yet, because there's still next week and the 14th of March to go this year. Well, whilst we Well, whilst we wait for the results to go through for the rest of the packs out online, we are going to be bringing you the B and D race next week alongside any of the other footage we can cover. The D race today still out on course at the moment. They've got around 2 kilometres to go. If you're interested in the results from that race, you can head over to Flamme Rouge Racing, the website, where you can find all the information, as Nathan has indicated, on joining the Super Six, but you can also find all the results and see just how close the league is running into the last race next week. What's your takeaway from this week's racing, Nathan?
Well, it was certainly very interesting. The strategies for the C's, of which I race in that Gamma, that C, was somewhat different to what we experienced in our race only a few hours ago. But there was a few things that I've noted down for future races in terms of how they approached that final finish. And of course, Rich, who is the organizer of the Super Six Racing Series, has done a fantastic job at hand selecting these courses, not just for the difficulty, not just for the challenges of the sprint segments and the climbing segments, but also for the challenge of these finishes as well. And that's certainly something that we saw today with those rollers coming so close to the very end and really mixing it up, especially for those A's, and the C's just barely hanging on for some of them as they cross that finish line. So it's been a fantastic race to watch and to commentate with you, Emma. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it has been really great. And you make a really fair point there, Nathan. Watching bike racing helps your own racing, and you can pick up tactics and strategies along the way to execute the next time. Well, I'll ask Nathan at the start of the show next week whether he executed any of that learning for his team and the racing, because next week's race on the Muckle Yin in Scotland, 29.5 kilometres of racing, 2 climbs, 2 sprints, 1 wild card and 1 finish liner all in play next week. It's going to be a very different race, Nathan.
I'm A, looking forward to it, and I'm B, not looking forward to it. We are currently sitting equal first in our league in Gamma here in the APAC, and so it's all going to come down to this very last race. I can't believe over 15 races that we are equal first with the WMZ team, and so it's all going to come down to that race. And as you say, Emma, trying to figure out a strategy for that particular course. Well, I don't know. It's going to be something that's going to keep me awake for the next few days, trying to work out what we can do. How can we separate ourselves, and who, importantly, am I going to allocate for those important roles: the sprinter, the climber, and the Gs? How am I going to divide this up? I don't know yet.
Well, I imagine there are a lot of teams out there thinking that as well. There's going to be a lot of discussion going on across the teams around the world for that Super Six final race next week. There's a lot of teams after today who are going to be even closer to that top spot and making that final. Well, you need to tune in next week for that final race to see how it all pans out and which teams qualify, go straight through to the finals on March the 14th. I, for one, am really looking forward to it. The teams are going to need strategy, they're going to need strength, they're going to need the ability to take their racing to the next level to qualify for that finals. Well, until next Friday, enjoy your racing. We'll see you again soon. Goodbye.